But I think the way the business and the incentives were designed in the last few years, we're in a time where media rights, no matter which property, were always growing.
Yeah.
At the end, you have these agencies trying to maximize their commission, so they were looking for the biggest check, not necessarily the biggest deal long term. Now, sports leagues are becoming more and more professional and more digital savvy, and starting to think about the branding, thinking about what's the future is going to look like in 10 to 20 years. Who are my fans? And all those things are taken into consideration, whether before it was maybe just the revenue.
Yeah, right.
Ever.
I mean, I'm really curious. Like, I'm watching, what are the next sports to come out of Europe or Asia or anywhere to the US? Obviously, football is massive. Formula One has grown significantly the past few years. The Netflix effect, whatever that might be. There's rumors now Apple's bidding for the rights in the US, which if you go from ESPN to Apple, that's a massive drop in audience. Again, I'm not involved in that. That's just kind of rumored, but it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I went to the Cricket World Cup last year when it was in New York, and they had the tournament here. And could there be kind of a cricket explosion? There's great cricket series on Amazon, the Test, things like that. Could there be a growth here? It's similar to baseball. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of waiting to see. Is there some other property? Are there other things that come out of Europe that really take hold here in the United States the way soccer, football has, and the way F1 has, over the past decade. So that's the most fun part of all this. The kind of world we work in, I think, is, doing deals in different regions, finding sports from different regions, lighting up content different places. And so, yeah, the smart properties they're thinking about, where's my fan base? Where's the growth? How do I distribute? How do I tap into this market in a smart way? And not just, bury my content behind a paywall because somebody gives me a small check. You have to be really thoughtful about it.
Yeah, I love that you say football and not soccer. I think that tells refers to the thing that I was saying before, that you're one of the few persons in the US understanding international sports, and this being a long argument of discussion with
That's right.
at our time when we were working together at Meta. Um, it's true that football has taken some ground here, but I have the impression, talking to different football clubs, talking to 3 different football leagues, that the US, it's like the holy grail. Like, they want to get there, they want to crack the US market, but there's no football property that has really cracked the market in the way. What do you think that's the case?
Yeah. So this stat used to be true. I'm not sure if it's true now, but I'm gonna say it. But the most watched league in the U.S., I was told, was Liga MX, and that's just because of the Hispanic audience and the population of the United States. But that's kind of a regional, obviously neighbor league.
That's Liga MX. Sorry to interrupt, but Liga MX is the only league in the world where an international market's media rights is more valuable than the domestic. The only one in the world. The Liga MX makes more money from their broadcast deal in the US than the broadcast deals they have in Mexico. If you look at the Premier League,
Right.
aggregated revenue of the Premier League in media rights, it's I think 6 billion. 3 billion come from the UK. In Spain, La Liga, the same. 50-60% of the revenue comes from the domestic country. The Liga MX is the only football league in the world that has more revenue from an international market than from the domestic one.
That's interesting. Yeah, and maybe the most watched league in the U.S. And there you get some like classic New York sirens in the background for the podcast for this segment. But no, I think what I've seen, again, being a consumer fan in the business for 30 plus years, is fans here love tradition and they love big clubs. And so a lot of the big clubs have, they've made inroads, they do summer tours, but people also like authenticity. They want to go to Anfield, they want to go to the Bernabeu. They don't love the kind of the fake football that we get in the summer and,
Yeah.
the C team. And so it's kind of a cultural thing to follow, but people want to make that pilgrimage, but only so many people can actually do it. I think what's evolved that probably the data from Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else supports is that it's now a player focus. So it was a tradition following a club, picking a club, but now it's about the players. And so, you know, I took my kids to Real Madrid. Do they even know who Real Madrid is? No, they just want to see Mbappe. They want to see Bellingham. They don't care who he's playing for. And so I think the players becoming icons, becoming social media superstars, like that's obviously not unique to football. It's kind of what's happened in every sport where the athletes are bigger than the league or the teams themselves. But, it's hard for a football league or a club to grow in America because the transient nature of the players. And so I know a lot of the American players are playing in Serie A right now, and Pulisic in Milan and others, and they're kind of hoping, is this a moment where that league can gain some more traction in the US? Maybe. But if those players leave, what are you selling? You kind of have to then lean back on the tradition of the clubs and the culture of Italy and, a lot of the marketing that they do. But it's really hard. It's really hard. But I think the European leagues have such a leg up on MLS because, they're playing in the mornings. It's a great time slot for us. It's much easier for a lot of people to consume games in the morning or the afternoons versus, Major League Soccer's head-to-head prime time against other U.S. sports. It's a great in-stadium spectator experience, but it's a really crowded media calendar. They're competing against a lot of other pro sports properties on television, and the audiences, haven't grown.
Yeah, because the calendar of US sports, it's crazy. You don't have a single day where nothing is going on. Like, you don't get a rest.
The only day of the year there's no pro game is next week. It's the day after the Major League Baseball All-Star game. That's the only day there's not a pro sports game. So 364 days a year, there's always something going on. So yeah, it's a crowded calendar. And so I admire, what a lot of the leagues have done coming from, other countries, other territories. I mean, even F1 with races, in Asia, crazy time slot. They're getting great numbers for morning races, late night races here in the US. They've done a good job marketing the athletes, the stories, the rivalries, kind of the playbook for football is in some ways similar to F1 or other international properties. It's selling the locations, the heritage, the rivalries. Yeah, you want to be part of something like that.
Well, in these last, I'll say 3 years, I think the football industry has made a huge effort in trying to crack the US market. And if it doesn't crack it now, I think it's going to be very hard to crack it, because when are you going to align three main
Yeah.
milestones, I'd say? Bringing arguably the biggest football player in history to play in the US with Messi, and the Messi effect and all that, and all that, what that brought. Do the first Clubs World Cup in history in the US, and next year with the big event, bringing the biggest event in sports to the US with the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah. It's a great moment. And, I was a kid, I was 12 years old in 1994 when World Cup came for the first time. And so, if there's momentum for next year to grow fandom and increase viewership, like now is the time. It is kind of amazing how, and the Women's World Cup coming in 2031,
Yeah,
a few years later, I forgot about it was going to be 27, but I think they spaced it out a little bit. That's in Brazil now. So yeah, it's a great time to be in this business in the US with all the football coming and the international sport coming. It's gonna be really fascinating.
I think what we need is invest more in developing the talent in the US, because the US audience is, I think that goes back to the culture and the American dream. And you are, as a country, or as a culture, you're a culture that like heroes and like superstars. And you said it before, we're missing that big personality that brings that drives audience to football. You have in the women NBA with Caitlin Carr. You have it in the NBA with many players, but we can pick now LeBron as the as the biggest star, but we're missing a big US player that
Yeah.
really drive those audiences.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the dream, and the women's side has been very successful. You've had Alex Morgan. I mean, going back, you had Mia Hamm. You had this whole generation, but yeah, on the men's side, it hasn't quite happened. I mean, like I followed them all. John Harkes, Landon Donovan, players that had good careers abroad,
Of
but
course,
have never kind of had the success on the world stage. Pulisic, let's see what happens next summer. Maybe they make a run. Not super optimistic, but from a business side, this team has such an opportunity, to really become America's team, to really show on the world stage, and hopefully they're ready to capitalize on that.
I'm very curious to the World Cup next year for two reasons. First, because it's going to be the first time we have well, not the first time because we have Korea and Japan, but where you have the organization
Yeah.
across three countries, that's always a big challenge and an approach that FIFA is taking to the World Cup in 2030 between Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. So I kind of like to see how that plays out. Um, and also because the first memory I have from a World Cup is that 94 World Cup that you remember. I was born in '88. I was 6 years old, and I remember the '94 World Cup as one of the first memories I have from football.
Amazing.
That final with Roberto Baggio missing the penalty ends
Brazil.
Brazil. I think
Yeah.
that has been one of the most brutal moments in football history.
Yeah, we've all missed penalties, but not on that stage. Yeah, amazing.
Hopefully, Italy made it to the World.
I know. It's more fun when they're the big teams, and yeah,
We need to have all the big teams and the big heroes.
Yeah.
And I'll be cheering for the US because
appreciate it.
we need the US market. Football needs the US market, and I think the US market needs football.
Yeah. It only would help all of us, trying to grow this business, trying to grow new leagues, new properties, whether that's men's, women's, international. Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of interest, and again, on the media side, Fox has the rights. That deal's done. The Women's World Cup the next year, 27, Netflix has the rights. So it'd be kind of an interesting experiment for FIFA with a streamer owning not just the Club World Cup like DAZN has now, but Netflix having the Women's World Cup rights here. So there's a lot of kind of interesting business subplots to watch for the men's and women's World Cups the next few years.